Hello everyone, this is Victor Lund, CEO of RETechnology, and welcome to today's webinar. The webinar today is sponsored by DocuSign, and we'll be discussing digital transformation. The real estate world is changing. A lot of brokerages are going to a completely electronic strategy, what we're calling the lead to close strategy, and we're going to gain some insights on that from some of the leaders in our industry who've been pursuing this strategy for some time now. So I've been the CEO of RETechnology since we founded the company I guess we're going on year 5 now. I'm also one of the founders of Wave Group. We're a real estate technology consulting firm. I've been gratefully named to one of the top 100 most influential people in real estate by both Inman News and Swanepoel Trends Report. And RETechnology is a service that's provided only to agents and brokers. It gives daily information about technology used in real estate, and as part of that we like to invite special guests to come to these webinars and tell us about how they're pursuing some of the strategies of using technology in real estate, and I think we have a real good one today. So on our panel today we have Graham Cabinet. He's the Director of Technology for Remax Integra. They're one of the largest Remax groups in the world. Their network has 34,000 people in it. They have 2,400 offices that they support. We're fortunate to have Scott Crawley with us today. Scott's with Fox Roach, and they're based along the Mid-Atlantic states. They're part of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. I believe they're the largest brokerage firm that's part of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. They're not a franchise, they're company-owned. We also have, from the technology perspective, my good friend George Gershenfeld, who's the Vice President and General Manager of the real estate vertical for DocuSign, a company that I'm certain that you're all familiar with. So we wanted to convene this webinar to look at a couple of the things that are really impacting technology used in real estate today and some of the trends that we're beginning to see. We're going to talk about today's real estate experience, both from a consumer perspective and an agent and broker perspective. There's some really interesting digital transformation that's coming along, and we're going to learn from some experts about that. For those of you who want to stick around, we're going to have a quick overview of some of the technology solutions that are being deployed today, and you'll gain an understanding of how these firms are deploying them, and then we'll be answering any and all of your questions. So again, as we go through today's webinar, please enter your questions in the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will have people answer them toward the end. Today's webinar is being recorded, so we'll be happy to send you a copy of that. So some of the things that Wave Group has really been monitoring over the last couple of years is a pretty fundamental shift in the way real estate technology is working. Big data has certainly become a very important thing, but pretty obscure to understand. But effectively what we're seeing is that enterprise level customers begin to look at all of the information that they could collect about a consumer and leverage that in ways that allow them to evolve predictive analytics to understand when a customer is likely to buy or sell, and how to maybe introduce home services options with mortgage, title, insurance, and others. We're beginning to see a lot more on the Internet of Things, smart houses, things like that. Everything in the technology footprint for agents, brokers, or consumers today has to be mobile. We've seen quite a bit with social media having an influence on the way that we communicate, not only as human beings, but also in business to consumers and even in business to business. We're beginning to see the introduction of the Web API from the Real Estate Standards Organization, which is a pretty fundamental shift in real estate, whereby rather than the balkanized data formats that are in each of the 730 MLSs across America, we're beginning to see normalized data and the ability for technology solutions to connect to that data in a standard format. That's accreting an additional value whereby technology companies can also begin to use applications to talk to one another. So your lead management system can talk to your transaction management system that can talk to your drip marketing system and other things. So all of that's happening through APIs, and we're really seeing a tremendous growth in the way companies are using APIs to really connect all the disparate technology solutions in their industry. Of course, we're seeing the evolution of upstream and MLS consolidation, and all of these kind of wrap around some pretty fundamental changes that are exposing themselves in real estate now that we have kind of moved beyond the recession. I hate to even say that word. So as you see all these things come together, we understand that the agent is the operator in the middle of all of this, and to some extent, greater or lesser, you may have brokerage services that buffer the agent as it relates to each of these products and technologies. But we find that all of the technologies kind of move into these groups, and just moving from left to right, the lead sort of generates, at Move or Zillow or wherever. It becomes qualified. There's CoreLogic is a company that steps in, provides CRM services. They also have some customer research services where they score leads and things like that. The customer goes into the CRM, use other things like SmartZip, predictive marketing to kind of get a sense not only of how to pull people into the buying and selling process, but also how to nurture their likelihood of transacting. Then they get into transaction management. All through this, you have accounting functions. Then part of the transaction management also connects to all the forms. We have ZipLogics, which is working with Instinet, or not working with, they're competing against Instinet. I think these are the two companies that nationwide have the most amount of forms. We're going to learn a little bit about how Canada is different here today and some of the other international companies from our good friends at Remax Integra. And then, pulling mortgage and title into this. So this is sort of the ecosystem that we're living in. This is the ecosystem we're going to talk about today. So I just want to get started here by introducing our panelists, and we'll get going. So did we go one slide too many? No? Okay. So our first panelist today is going to be Scott Crawley. And Scott is the Chief Information Officer for Fox Roach. They have about 5,000 real estate agents. I think they're in 3 states, 70 offices. So Scott, are you with us?
I am.
Excellent. Well, welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, Scott, I'm going to enjoy hearing a little bit more about Fox Roach and how you guys operate and what the company is, because I think you're quite a bit more than just a real estate brokerage. But I did want to remind the people on our webinar today that if they have questions for Scott during his presentation, just put them in the questions dialog box. So with that, Scott, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your brokerage?
Yeah, a lot of the information here is on the slide, but in addition to running the Fox Roach brokerage, we also have the Trident Group, which is title, mortgage, and insurance. So what we tried to put together was as a system that basically can sit over top of all 4 of those core business units and help them to function better at an enterprise level.
That's excellent. So as a company, are you guys trying to take the customer and move them through all of those companies?
Yeah, that's the strategy. The strategy is to offer the brokerage services with the best customer experience possible, and then I guess present them with the opportunities to use our mortgage, our title, and our insurance company.
So that wasn't always the case. You guys used to operate sort of in business verticals, where
yes.
they, and you've launched something that you guys call a digital transformation strategy. First of all, can you explain what that is, and then explain what a digital transformation strategy is, and then tell us about yours?
Sure. So we started probably about 1.5 years, 2 years ago when we started looking at some of the technology that was coming out in the marketplace, DocuSign being one of those. And before we wanted to make the investment, we wanted to make sure that we were clear on what it was that we were trying to do and kind of what were the business goals that we were trying to get out of this. So we sat down, and the first thing that we kind of, the vision, the mission statement was we wanted to be able to manage all of our digital assets in real time. We wanted to be able to do so in a way that we could generate some revenue building opportunities, and we wanted to do it throughout the companies, all 4 different verticals. And we were going to do that through automation, collaboration, and then process reengineering. So we kind of put that out there and made sure that there was buy-in that was going to be the strategy. And then before we got started, we kind of sat back and we started to think about it a little more. And one of the stipulations that we put in there is we said, part of this digital strategy is we want to take advantage of technology and we want to take advantage of digital, but we don't want to just lift and shift our existing processes and just start to use better technology. We actually wanted to sit back and take this as an opportunity to kind of look at some of those things that we've been doing for 10, 15 years and then challenge ourselves and see if there was a better way that we could try to run our brokerage.
Excellent. So along the way, I know that, obviously you guys have had an endeavor to go paperless and to reduce the amount of paper that you're using in the brokerage, as well as to provide this very appealing experience for consumers, whether they're working with your title company, your insurance company, your mortgage company, your real estate company, like however they integrate with you, you've tried to digitize a lot of that experience. So can you talk a little bit about how you use DocuSign in that and why DocuSign was so important to you versus some of the other offerings that are in the marketplace?
Sure. So one of the main reasons that we chose DocuSign or transaction rooms in the first place was that we looked at the three main components on one of your previous slides, and one of them was forms. Another big component was the electronic signatures, and at the time, and still is, DocuSign is the industry leader in electronic signatures. We are in the Northeast, PA, Jersey, and Delaware, and I think 9 or 10 different MLSs. And for the majority of our offices, they're all covered through ZipLogic, so all of our forms are there. So when we looked at the three of these components and tried to look at them as a package, what we thought was that transaction rooms could focus on what they were innately better at, the collaboration and the document management, and they didn't have to necessarily worry about the forms or the electronic signature. So for us, it was a very easy move because they had basically the best of breed in all of those different categories. The way that we're using transaction rooms is to basically to fulfill the vertical integration is we've made transaction rooms the hub for all of our transaction data and docs. So the way that we worked a few years ago was depending on how many interactions you had with our company as a client, we would potentially have to manually input the same data several times into several different systems. So if you bought a home through us and we were going to offer you mortgage and title insurance, there was a big redundancy on the data that needed to filter through our company. So what we decided to do was what we called a publisher subscriber model. So we built a scenario where we have a data warehouse that's internal, and the strategy was that we were going to leverage the APIs that were exposed via DTR, and then we were going to bring all of those data in Docs Local and then present each of the different business units with data points and documents that we've collected, and then give them the ability to pick and choose what was relevant to them and when. So insurance might need different data points than our mortgage company does, and our mortgage company might have a need that our title company doesn't. So we wanted to be able to expose it and then be able to have them customize what was going on. So further down the line in the strategy was if we were bringing everything here and we were able to manage our own data and own our own data, that we would be able to build our own integrations to whatever companies we wanted to, or basically any third-party vendors that we wanted to try to bring in.
So as you guys have gone through this, it sounds like you've had to develop quite a significant amount of internal expertise around managing your own data. You're not using vendors for that, is that right?
Correct.
And then can you talk to us a little bit about how you're reporting on the strategy and then the kind of results that you're seeing? So you have strategy, implementation, and then you have reporting. So can you talk to us about reporting and results?
Yeah, so we purchased a BI platform about 6 or 7 months ago, and this kind of came as the bolt-on to what we had. We realized that we had all of this transaction data, and that the data is a gold mine, but without a clear way to kind of bring this back to branch managers or office administrators or accounting or executive. the data just sitting there really wasn't being able to be mined or visually displayed. So when we purchased this package, we started to be able to build dashboards that allowed our branch offices and executive to see, a real-time analysis of the performance of the offices, how many listings we were taking, how many deals were going pending. We could start to put around, some predictive analytics around what we knew from a pending standpoint, what estimated settlement dates were going to be, and we could kind of forecast things out there. But the big difference for us was you could always get that out of the back office system, but it was, a month or two after things closed, there wasn't the ability to have any real-time data. So you could look at what you did in May, but if you're looking at it in June, you really can't do anything about it. So the strategy was we have to get the data out as fast as we can to the branch managers so that there's a time for corrective action. There's something that you can actually do about this to start to change these results and not look at the results after the fact, a month or two after they've been reported.
So when a real estate agent logs in to, I'm guessing they access all, what do you have, like 20 tools that are available for agents, and they log in to some back office environment. I think you're using Agent Achieve by CoreLogic, right?
Yep, correct, yep.
Okay, and then are you using the API within CoreLogic to connect to DocuSign transaction rooms?
We're not doing that yet. That's slated for later in the year. We're going to connect to the Agent Achieve platform, and then also try to bring in data from zip forms to populate the details and transaction rooms. But we have not a small staff, but a mid-sized staff that there's so many opportunities right now. We're trying to make sure that we can prioritize and get to the stuff that we deem the highest.
Okay, so when an agent's logged into Agent Achieve, on the left-hand side, there's a transaction rooms button, and they click that,
right
and how does it work now? You're using single sign-on?
Right now, there's just a single sign-on link that sits within Agent Achieve, so that you can get to all of our tools. And then eventually, the plan is that you would be able to just drill down into a customer record, and then initiate a transaction directly from the customer record, and then pre-fill
awesome
transaction rooms directly from there.
Now, the BI, or business intelligence system you're using, is a system called Tableau, right?
Yes.
So you have customized views for your regional managers and each office manager. Do agents have their own view of that, or just the managers?
No, the agents don't have access, and it was basically just a pricing issue, being able to license the software. But you're correct, it's at the executive dashboard, and then that can drill down to states, and you can see the state performance, and then you can drill down through states to the regions, and the regions then down to the office level.
Awesome. And it's real time. Like you're hydrating what's going on across the enterprise all the time, so that anyone in the organization with the appropriate authority can go see your entire sales funnel, everything that's happening in the business at any given time,
yeah.
Right?
As long as transaction room is kept up to date, then yes, everything basically funnels down there and down through there in real time.
So I know sometimes you take something that is a digital transaction strategy or digital transformation strategy, and then you apply it to the enterprise. How are people accepting it? Like, are the managers excited that they get this granularity into what's happening in their office and in their regions?
They are excited. The biggest challenge in digital transformation by far is change management. So you need to have your eyes wide open when you walk in to trying to start to not only teach a new technology tool, which is a whole big issue on its own, is trying to reteach technology, but on top of technology, we're trying to streamline and re-engineer business processes that you've been doing for 15, 20 years. So there's a lot of acceptance. Everyone understands the vision and where it is you're trying to go and what we're trying to do. It's just the change management, along the way that is where we've run into issues.
So agents who are getting accustomed to DocuSign's transaction rooms, are they getting like lots of feedback and testimonials from customers that really appreciate all of these efforts?
They do. We've gotten customer testimonials, but we also get the agent testimonials because, when we first went into this, it was the training was rolled out immediately to the office administrators and kind of back office from a file processing standpoint, and then we went to the agent population. And what the agents see is that their efficiencies are improved because they're no longer carrying around paper files. They're not using 4 or 5 different systems to try to keep track of end-to-end what they were doing. So, they were taking the agreement and writing down mortgage commitment dates and, collect the second deposit check and all of the different tasks they had. And they were putting that on a whiteboard in the office. And, we told them we're not really trying to just give you a Dropbox, because that was what they saw immediately was, oh, well, this is just another place I can store my digital files. But when we sat down with them and said, all right, your task management goes away, and the collaboration piece, and now all of your contact records, and now all of your documents, and by the way, this is all integrated into our conveyancing department too, so you don't have to you don't have to hand a paper file into our office administrator for processing anymore. You just click the submit button and things are done. So they picked up on the efficiencies, and as soon as we started to get to them and be able to train it, we've gotten more positive feedback from the agents at this point than we have from consumers.
Okay. Now, do you guys provide an option for agents to use transaction rooms or use a transaction manager? How does that work in your company?
Yeah, that goes back to the whole change management process. I mean, the easiest thing for us to do would have just been to roll out and say it's a mandatory system, but we're not there yet, and I don't know if we ever will be. So as it stands right now, is that they have the option to be able to either create the rooms on their own and then electronically submit, or if they choose to, they can come and hand the paper into the office administrator.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's Fox and Roach, and what you guys do is really amazing, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us and how you guys have really embraced this dream and started to put the heavy lifting into it. I'd like to now turn and invite Graham Cabinet to the call. Are you with us, Graham?
Yes. Hi, Victor.
Oh, welcome. I really appreciate you being here. As I mentioned in the introduction area, Graham is he's running one of the largest Remax organizations in the world. And Graham, can you just kind of introduce us a little bit to what Remax Integra is? It's a different kind of company, and we'll just get started right there.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Victor. Yeah, so for those who do not know, Remax Integra, we're kind of a lesser known in the industry, but we're the largest sub-franchisor of Remax. We actually represent about 1/3 of all the Remax associates worldwide. By sub-franchisor, we're a little different than Scott. We sell and support our franchises with training and marketing and technology across our network, which is kind of the Northeast U.S., Eastern Canada. I'm actually based in Toronto, and we also represent Remax Europe, which is a large growing aspect of the Remax network. So we have 34,000 agents across 2,400 offices. A little bit different. As a sub-franchisor, we can't necessarily mandate the technology, so many of our brokerages are doing different things. I guess that's kind of the advantage of my role, is that I get to see what some brokers are doing well and others are not doing so well, and try to implement the best practices and take the good ideas from one area and implement them in another area. So that's kind of the gist of Remax Integra. I think that answers your question, Victor.
Yeah, it does. So it is always good to get a perspective from someone like you as it relates to how you decided that DocuSign was correct for your footprint.
Yeah.
And how transaction rooms kind of work into that, because when you're an international company and you're trying to create standards across 2,400 different offices, I mean, it becomes a very, very complex decision-making process. So can you talk a little bit about how you made the decision to go with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we evaluated a lot of what was already being used out there. We looked at what products are the leaders in their space. One of the initiatives we took on about 2 years ago was something called Remax Launchpad, which is for us a center point where all of our brokers and agents can log in and find the best tools in the industry. and DocuSign was kind of the four leader, kind of the first at e-signature and transaction room as they acquired Cartavi many years ago. So a lot of our brokers were already using that product. So we want to standardize, not just in the U.S. but obviously in Canada. And DocuSign, fortunately, is global ready. So it's a product that can be used in our Remax European regions as well. And we have, Remax Israel, for instance, is looking at DocuSign right now and trying to implement that in their region. So it was an obvious choice for us. It wasn't an easy choice, but it was an obvious choice, and we're happy to be working with them.
So with your experience internationally, are you finding that DocuSign is embraced and accepted across the globe the same way it is here in America, or are you finding some differences? I mean, I know that it does support multi-language, and it has, probably the highest level security of any transaction management, or I'm sorry, digital signature solution. So is that kind of what you feel when you get out of America?
No, it's definitely different. I mean, you're right. I think DocuSign's leading the way in the security, which makes it a little bit more comfortable for the governments and the individual users. But yeah, definitely if you go to Israel, the rules are different. Even though the European Union really generally supports digital signatures, it's not always the same in every country. They may not have implemented the rules the same. Same in Canada. I mean, in the U.S. it's been well adopted for a few years, I believe, many years actually. So little nuances. So some of our regions or brokers are using it for just the signature part, and sometimes they can only use it for buyer or listing agreements, but not necessarily the purchase or sale. So it really depends on the individual rules. But by and large, I think probably within the next 2 years that'll wash, and we hope everybody will be using DocuSign.
So how does it fit in for the topic here today, your vision and goals for Integra and your digital transformation strategy?
Our number one reason for going paperless with DocuSign was the productivity aspect. So I think Scott spoke to this, but if we can take some of our agents that are doing 14 deals a month, or 14 deals a year, or 16 deals a year, and move that up to 18 deals a year, or even one more deal a year, just because they're able to process more smoothly and they're more productive. I actually really like the stat that you had a few slides back, where you said on average an agent uses 20 or more apps from the time they lead to close. I think transaction management is a huge component of that, but trying to simplify that is very difficult, and that's been our number one focus, is helping our agents stay and become more productive. I mean, there's the other benefits that you see on the slide. Obviously, it helps the brand. When consumers interact with our agents and they're able to do a deal without faxing and calling and going back and forth. If you've done a real estate deal both ways, definitely the paperless way is a lot smoother, and any client will tell you that. So it speaks to the brand when you have professional agents using good technology to close a deal. So that's really important. The last component, which you can also see on the slide, is the mobile aspect. Most of our brokers and our agents are not sitting at their desks. They're 24/7 out on the road. They're road warriors, and we need solutions that can help them finalize the deal no matter where they are. And DocuSign's kind of leading the way in mobile as well in that respect.
So in terms of the way in which you deliver technology solutions, I know, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but I know that Fox and Roach, they site license all the technology services for their agents, and they provide those to the agent without any kind of fee. But you guys operate a little differently. You have a sort of agent broker opt-in program for these technology solutions. Is that right?
That is right. I mean, it is an opt-in, so some brokerages may have chosen to use something else. How we try to address this at our level is kind of the carrot and stick model. So we try to find incentives and reasons for them to use DocuSign, whether it be pricing that we've negotiated, and licensing deals and cooperative licensing, or working on the integration points. So we have some technology that Remax provides, the Remax toolbox, and we are working on integrations between those systems. So as a lead comes in off the website, we hope to have that automatically create a transaction room so they can immediately create a buyer or listing agreement for that client without having to double enter. That's something we're working on at the moment. And those kind of incentives will hopefully provide our brokers with a stepping stone and some standardization across our organization.
Well, that's excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that. I do want to remind everyone who's on our call today that our panelists will be happy to answer any question that you have. If you just go to the questions dialog box within the GoToWebinar control panel, you can type your question in and we'll have the appropriate person answer. So with that, we'll move on to the next slide, and I'd like to introduce my friend George Gershenfeld. And George, I believe 2 or 3 years ago, became the General Manager of Real Estate for DocuSign. Welcome, George.
Thank you. Good morning and afternoon, depending on what time zone everybody's in.
Yeah, people are flip-flopping. So can you just get started a little bit by telling us about DocuSign, the corporation, because you guys are all over the world, and then tell us a little bit about DocuSign for Real Estate, which is sort of your providence.
Sure. So DocuSign is a company. Usually I'm doing this in person, and I do a show of hands and have everybody raise their hands on how many have used and heard of DocuSign. And I trust that quite a few people. Usually it's pretty close to 100% of the room. So and it's largely the real estate industry that has made DocuSign a verb in the industry to go ahead and DocuSign something. And so that real estate strength has actually parlayed into a global company, and people think of us often as an e-signature company, but we're really a transaction management company. We have DocuSign transaction rooms on top of e-signature, and the e-signature workflow is really something that DocuSign has built to help everything from an individual parent signing a PTA document to an enterprise company, a global enterprise company like SAP or Hewlett-Packard, doing customer agreements and sales orders around the world. And so we're adding 150,000 new users per day and processing millions of transactions per day across our platform, really around the world. We're in pretty much every country around the world where you can DocuSign something today, and originating documents from everywhere in Europe and Asia, Australia, as a global company, and not just serving real estate anymore, but we have over 600 credit union customers. We have customers in all of the largest banking institutions like Citibank and Bank of America and other industries as well. So DocuSign has really just become sort of a global leader in transaction management. And my role in real estate, we define real estate kind of broadly as DocuSign. So real estate encompasses everything from what we've been calling lead to close in this conversation. So from the moment a real estate agent or broker gets a lead to the moment that the deed is recorded with the county, we see everything in that: mortgage, title, property management as part of the real estate experience. And that's sort of my realm within this company.
So I look at this very complex slide, and this is sort of where you live.
This is very much where we live. So I think a lot of people recognize maybe their stacks of paper are more neatly piled up, or in those folders that everybody's familiar with, that agents run around with and the transaction coordinators have. And clearly there's just a lot of people that touch this real estate transaction. I think everybody knows and understands all of the people involved, all of the process involved. You're chasing those people and process all the time, and it can be a very cumbersome, challenging experience that has a lot of back and forth between multiple parties. And what's interesting is that we have, as a company, DocuSign, relationships with pretty much every entity within this sort of group of people over here. And so, sort of if you look at the next slide, you see these disconnected systems. And we've talked a little bit previously, Scott and Graham mentioned this, as many as 20 different applications that people are touching or using. And those systems today generally don't talk to each other or work together. And we call it papering out in the DocuSign language. So you might start a process in DocuSign, but at some point you have to print out paper still, and you have to be able to pass that paper to another entity. And those processes become very manual and create a really bad customer experience for the consumer and the user, for the agent, for the transaction coordinator. Everybody's having sort of a poor customer experience in this, and we're looking forward to transform that for people on the next slide. And so that's really what we call digital transaction management, and what, to a large degree, Scott and Graham have been talking about on the digital transformation. And we see ourselves as a party to helping facilitate that digital transformation. And I think one of the things that we try to pride ourselves on is being agnostic within the industry. And when we say that, we mean agnostic from a perspective of our interest is in helping the industry make the real estate transaction more effective. So we want to help brokers, agents, all of these parties work together better. We don't take anybody's side in the transaction. We're a platform that's going to enable all parties to work together better. And we think of that agnosticism as well from a technology point of view. So we know that in those many 20 applications, folks have made very conscious, deliberate decisions. Right? Graham just said it wasn't an easy choice, but it was a clear choice for them in who they selected us among their technology partners. And so you all make just important distinctions and decisions around what accounting software you use or what CRM you use. And so we want to be agnostic in how you work with. The DocuSign can connect sort of all of those systems together, regardless of who you choose to use today. I think we can probably move on to the next slide. And so that's what takes us to what we call our integrated lead-to-close platform. And this is really driven by a couple of key components. So there's a lot of sort of busyness on this slide. I'll walk everybody through it. On the left-hand side, you think about finding business and all the data that comes into a transaction. You have MLS data, CRM. In the mortgage world, you have a loan origination system. There's all this data coming in to start a transaction. And on the right-hand side, you have all this data coming out. Scott's using Tableau and other tools to do ROI analysis and get real-time data reporting. You have your accounting software so you can pay your agents and track your financial scenarios. And you've got other applications maybe with home warranties or other business units in insurance that you might have within your company. And so data is coming in and out of your transaction, and then you've got on the bottom of this mortgage and title as a big part of any real estate transaction. And so we see DocuSign as a hub essentially in the middle, connecting all of these pieces. And what we've built, and Victor talked about this early, as one of the critical new trends in the industry is really leveraging APIs. And for those that aren't technically familiar, an API is essentially a way for data to transfer from one software application to another. And we've built very sophisticated API connectors within DocuSign and our transaction management, our transaction rooms, to be able to pull property listing data, CRM data into a transaction room to get it started and pre-populated, and minimize the data entry and the mistakes that come from data entry to create a transaction room, and connecting that again to push that data out when the transaction is done into those data out systems. So again, saving you time, improving compliance and control of what you do in the transaction, and connecting that all the way to the mortgage and title experience. And along with that, giving brokers the flexibility to adapt the workflow to the software that they choose to use and adapt how they do their transaction management, as well as ensuring at every point in time that the data is owned and managed by the broker. And that's a very important distinction to us. We're a company that exists to help you use your data and make your data more effective for you. We're not a big data company trying to mine data and profit off of that. We are successful through helping our customers around the world and expanding beyond just residential real estate and other parts of real estate to help unlock that data within your transaction and to give you the control and ownership of it.
It's awesome. Some of the things that I recognize when I look at what you've done here that I think it's important to clarify for others. When you first started talking, George, you outlined, what those 12 actors are. And they're real estate agents, they're the brokerage, the compliance people, the mortgage people. All of those people sort of have their own stack of paper and business processes that they use. And it's extremely difficult to keep each of those applications connected to a hub, which makes sure that all of the information is shared across all those 12 actors, so that documents as they're fed into the system at the brokerage level are also being duplicated into the other systems. And transaction rooms is a place that pulls all that stuff together so that anybody can go and look at the most current and the most current activity that's happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And transaction rooms. So I'm not sure if we will still have time, but we happy to show folks the transaction room product, and it's a little bit different than e-signature. It's integrated with e-signature, but the transaction room really picture a data room where you can invite people into that room and collaborate throughout this real estate transaction, and really designed, as you see on the slide here, to close business faster and help brokers spend less time chasing down compliance factors and audit, and more time being able to build the best team by providing them with the best tools and resources. And some of the what I think some of what Scott said earlier about change management. I mean, we want to provide the best tools out there, and we realize that everything that you do is really a change management exercise, and we're there to kind of help facilitate and work with that change to help a brokerage find a way to apply these tools in the way that makes the most sense for their business.
Oh, that's awesome. I really appreciate you doing that. Now, just out of curiosity, the APIs that are associated with transaction rooms, the transaction room view is sort of mostly considered to be an agent view. Do the mortgage people use APIs out of transaction rooms to power their software systems, or are they using both applications?
Interestingly, they're kind of using both. So it sort of plays into the flexibility that we have of being able to configure the transaction room in the way that best suits your business. So many people are working directly in the transaction room, and what we've done from a product perspective is integrate with the APIs, integrate things like at the click of a button the ability to pull in a zip form, or at the click of a button to push to Lone Wolf your accounting data, so that the user experience is a very simple sort of dialog box, click a button type of thing, but behind the scenes all of that data integration is happening on an automatic basis for you. And then there are others that have chosen to basically use the APIs and embed the transaction management software within their solution in a way that the best way to almost think about it is almost like an iframe. So you're in somebody else's mortgage loan origination system, and you're using DocuSign transaction rooms and e-signature within that experience that's native to a loan origination system, or whatever other software platform the partner might have.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna bring Scott Crawley back in here when we get to the Q&As, because I'm really interested to hear how they do that with Trident as well. But just to kind of wrap up today's webinar here, I want to review a couple of key points that I believe are important and valuable for brokerages to consider. So one of the big shifts that we talked about earlier is data ownership, and you heard that from Scott Crawley. The data that's in your applications that you use as a broker is an asset of the brokerage, especially that consumer record data. And a lot of the transaction data today isn't really being curated very effectively by very few brokers. So, I really do commend the efforts of Fox and Roach to really take a strong look at data ownership and making sure that that asset that they're creating becomes available across all their business units, not only the real estate business unit, but they're able to discover opportunities in mortgage and insurance and other business units as a result of that data ownership. I think that one of the key takeaways that brokerages need to understand is that APIs are available that allow your systems to talk to each other. So you may have a framework like transaction rooms that allow you to kind of visualize information or visualize a process within your business, but the ability to take the information that's in that process and then move it out. So we heard a little bit about like integrating CRM with transaction rooms, with DocuSign, with accounting, and then be able to extend that information into either partnership companies that you might have with mortgage or title or insurance, or if they're company owned, to actually duplicate that data over there and keep it all synchronized. It's very, very important that you begin to understand how to leverage those strategies in your business if you truly intend to have some kind of digital transformation. And then the last thing that I believe is so vital to all of this is broker control. We're living in a world where real estate brokers and agents and even their consumers a lot of time are becoming sort of the target of technology companies who are looking to extract that data out. And it's very vital in all of your agreements that you look at, whether it's with DocuSign or anybody else, that you're constantly being mindful of the control that you have over your data. Who gets permission to use it, when they get permission to use it, and how they get permission to use it. So that's kind of a wrap for me. I think that you should focus all this stuff on mobile as well. DocuSign is going to have a couple of people that are going to be, you probably have a big booth at NAR, right?
We've got a pretty big booth at NAR, and I've got a couple parting thoughts too to share with the group. But yeah, we've got quite a presence at NAR, so more than happy. Sean Hill is the Director of Business Development on my team, and like I said, I run real estate globally for DocuSign, and we're available to talk to folks, anytime, not just about DocuSign, but really about what it takes for digital transformation. And one thing, this can be a very overwhelming amount of content and information, particularly for folks that are either not personally technologically savvy or are concerned about their agents or some of their office managers who may not have the tech savvy. And I think part of what Graham and Scott have role modeled so well in this industry is, starting small and start somewhere. Just get started, right? It's so easy to get overwhelmed and sort of wait for the perfect solution or push off technology innovation and get overwhelmed by it. There's no substitute for getting started today on sort of your first step. And I think part of what these folks also did really, really well is having a vision and sort of an end in mind, knowing what the end goal is that they want to achieve, and not necessarily knowing exactly how they were going to get there, but having the sort of confidence and courage to stake out a vision of where they wanted to go with their business, and to think about how to apply technology and to just take that first step towards that vision and adapt as they went. And they've both innovated and worked with DocuSign and other technology vendors in ways that I think have been cutting edge for the industry in each of their own ways. And I think a lot of that goes to how, and I think there are others of you out there that have created similar visions and then started with small steps to get there. And so I definitely would encourage people not to feel overwhelmed by the choices out there, but to think about what's important to your business and just start taking steps to achieving that vision.
That's excellent. And George, do you have somebody who can give us a quick view of transaction rooms? Can you give us a short little overview of the product?
Sure. I think we have Patrick Lyon on the line, and Patrick is one of our solution engineers, and maybe can give us a very quick demo of how transaction rooms works.
Yeah, this is brand new software, right? Like you guys just really reimagined all of this and are rolling it out to some key companies like Fox Roach now. How long has it been in the marketplace?
Well, so it depends on how you define new, but we've had transaction rooms in the marketplace probably for about 5 or 6 years, but we're constantly innovating. Last year we won a couple of innovation awards from Inman and an Edison Award for innovation. We have some new patents coming out, so we are continuously adapting and changing and modifying the product to meet the customer market needs. So it feels new, every month when we ship a new release. It feels like it feels new in terms of capabilities and functionality, and at the same time we try to keep the user interface consistent so that users don't feel overwhelmed by the changes when we introduce new capabilities.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Patrick, welcome to the call. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm going to try and keep this relatively quick. I'm sure we've had some questions that have come through, and just wanted to give, like we said, a real quick tour of the Transaction Rooms product so that we can answer some of those questions.
Yeah, before you get started, so like what we're seeing here, this is like a totally responsive design, right? So it'll work on a desktop, it'll work on mobile phone, but you also have an app, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're seeing it from a desktop, obviously, right? And it's going to work on whatever browser you're working from. If you're working on something mobile or a smaller screen, definitely very responsive, so you're getting a really nice experience regardless of where you're accessing it. And we also do have free native apps for iOS, right, for your iPad, Android, as well as for Windows devices as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you get started here. Whatever account you're looking at, they certainly have a lot of transactions going on. That's always good to see.
Amen, Jessica. My agent here is definitely a very prolific one. And so what we're looking at here, right, is just kind of a general overview of the different rooms that my agent Jessica here is a part of, right? And she can be on the list side, which is on here, buy side. There's some designations in order to stay organized. But if we just jump right into one of these rooms, right, it acts as a central hub to everything that's acting inside this transaction. So we can see all the details regarding this information, or buyer, seller. This details tab. This is our cover sheet, really, is what this is. So it's got, all of our listing details, offer details, as well as agents, service providers, all this kind of stuff, right? So that's captured here under details. And then we also have the different people who are involved. And we can also look at like the documents that are in here. And what we see up at the top is a checklist, and that's something that, by office, each one of our customers is going to create their own set of checklists, just like you guys have on paper right now. This is just a kind of a digital representation of that. So we have some required documents in here. We have some that are optional. You can also set up things inside these task lists that are going to be non-document related, such as just, order just listed cards, things like that. And these just are placeholders for putting in completed documents once we have those taken care of. And we have some documents that have been loaded in here already that I went ahead and added those in just for the sake of time. But you can see that there's a lot of different document file types that are supported here. There's Word documents, picture files, PDFs, right? So it's not just the PDFs, but there's a lot of different documents that you can pull in. Now, one of the things that we talked about before on the webinar, right, was the integration with zip forms. And that's what I wanted to show really quick here, is that we can go straight into zip forms. And even if we don't have a transaction inside of zip forms yet, we can create a whole new one. Set up what type this is, and then choose which documents we need to pull over. And aside from that being a cool feature, what does that really mean for your agents? Well, it means that they don't have to log into multiple locations, right? That can be another one of those killers in the technology. They have all these different tabs open, and they're trying to log into multiple places. It's all right here. So we can pull our cover sheet in, we can bring our SLC in, all this stuff, right? And when we do, this isn't just a copy of a PDF that's brought in to transaction rooms. This is an actual zip forms document that's living and breathing inside of here. So when I fill something out, on here for who this buyer is, right? This, just like inside zip forms, this is going to go through and populate across all the different areas in all my different forms that have all that information on there, right? And to take this even a step further too, is that when we go to send this out for e-signature, let's say we're going to send out this SLC form here. Just quickly label this up. All those tags are going to be in the area that we need those to be, right? So again, we're not looking at the features of what this is necessarily, but we're looking at it for the agent. What does this mean for the agent? It means that it is really, really easy for them to be able to send these out, to get signatures, right, and to really do what they're best at, which is going out and it's building relationships, selling properties. It's not going through and having to fight with technology, do anything like that, right? So they're just able to come in here and say, hey, who's this going to? And because of this integration, we already have these tags that are put on the form saying, hey, this is where we need to collect signatures. Great. So we can just send that out directly from here. We can check in and manage that from inside our envelopes tab. And then when they come back, we're going to assign those signed documents onto these areas here. And that's going to roll up to, their manager, transaction coordinator, whoever's doing the approving of those documents, so that it's really that all-in-one solution.
Wow, that's excellent. Can I see the people screen real quick?
Yeah, of course. So in here, right, we have a few different people who are involved on here, and the transaction coordinator and the brokers are actually added in automatically. So whenever Jessica opens up a new one, for visibility and compliance standpoint, we have these folks who are kind of above Jessica in the office hierarchy, just added in automatically, so they can see everything that's going on inside these rooms.
All right. So and then back to the task list. I just want to make sure I clearly understand that. So in any given office, the company can set what that task list is. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then even inside of these two, right, it's not just the list, but we're also building in due dates, we're building in reminders, and the different people who are assigned to this too. So there's really a lot that goes into these task lists to really bring this transaction to life.
So where appropriate, this data that's happening within transaction rooms can be exported through the API and then absorbed by what Fox and Roach is doing with Tableau, so they can see like, oh, this is out for signature, or this is what the timeline is of this transaction. These are all that stuff?
Yeah, correct. I mean, anything that you're seeing in here, any clicks that I'm making, all that stuff is exposed through the API. So you can pull the information from the details tab. You can pull this information from the task list and what's been satisfied, and push those into any other system.
And then if there's, if I have a mortgage partner that's associated to an office, you mentioned the compliance person, maybe whoever the broker is for that office. Those people can sort of be preordained to be added to these rooms, so that when an agent opens a new room, they're automatically invited, or do I have to invite them each time?
Yeah, definitely the former, right? You can have it set up just like you said, preordained, have them get automatically brought into this room so that you don't have to go out and do that manual process.
So with these checklists and with these people requirement, you can apply a business rule so you know that every time a transaction happens, these are the things that are being done.
Precisely.
Scott, are you still on the call?
I am.
How does that work out with you guys? I mean, are you seeing that? Are you seeing the lift that happens in your business today?
The standardization is definitely a big help. We had, I think Patrick said it before, is there was a paper checklist at the front desk in most offices that most agents were used to the concept of a checklist, but the paper file was still a paper file, and not all the time the checklist was fulfilled. So there's the option to keep these documents required, and basically that means that the room doesn't pass from phase 1 to phase 2. Unless those documents are collected. So it's helped from a compliance standpoint, and then it also helps from a file completeness standpoint, so that by the time it gets to title or it gets to conveyancing, they actually have everything they need, and they don't have to try to go back to the agent and get whatever documents may have been missing in the paper days.
So before you I mean, how many transactions do you guys do a year?
I think we did 30,000 last year.
So for the first time, Fox and Roach can guarantee the same process on 30,000 transactions as it's supposed to happen in each office and in each region.
Yeah, we're getting there. I don't know if we're 100% yet, but it's definitely a lot better. We're dealing with 5,000 independent contractors, so yeah, we're definitely getting closer, and it's been a year and a half, and each year we see that the compliance and the what we consider a complete file, that percentage gets higher and higher. We're not at 100%, but that's the goal.
Wow, well, that's excellent. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We have hit the top of the hour. I don't see any additional questions for our panelists, so I think we're good to wrap it up, and I want to thank each and every one of you. invite you to go see DocuSign if you're headed to NAR, or reach out to the DocuSign folks if you want to learn more about how their applications might fit into your business. I know that we talked about some super huge companies here today, and I'm very thankful for Scott to come in from Fox Roach, and for Graham to come in from Remax Integra. I think that the way that you guys kind of designed the picture of how you went about selecting your technology vendor, the types of things that you were thinking about, how it works into your digital trends, into your digital strategy, and where you're seeing this thing go is really vital. And George, as always, DocuSign has continued to demonstrate its ability to flex all of its technology solutions to be able to meet the needs of brokers today. So good job on all that, and thank you very much for everyone attending. We will invite everyone who came to the webinar today to have a recording of today's webinar and any additional information. So with that said, thank you very much. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Excellent. Thank you.